I don't want to speak for Omar here, but do you think with all the success he's had with trades and deals that maybe he was overconfident that this was going to get done here? That, yeah, like you said, that San Fran would eventually cave because Aiyuk was kind of in control of this?
The one thing that never made a lot of sense, and all the reporting here, is that the deal he took is the exact same deal that was offered all along. The one thing that never made sense to me is, I know guys like to play for Mike Tomlin, right? And if you get traded here and you get your money and then you just get to play for Mike, that's probably appealing because I think Mike is more player-friendly than Kyle Shanahan. But if you're Brandon Aiyuk and you do care about winning a Super Bowl and you do care about putting up big numbers and you don't just care about the money and you want to be recognized as one of the best receivers in the game for the next several years, it never made sense to come to Pittsburgh. It really only made sense to stay in San Francisco and get some sort of a deal done with them. And so what I think happened here is Brandon Aiyuk might have gotten cold feet, or he just got it, through his head that this is actually the best place for me, and he took the original deal. That's the aspect of this that I never really understood. Like, I tried to put myself in the player's shoes, but it always felt to me like his best option was stay in San Francisco. If they are willing to pay you something, then take what they're willing to pay you and go on about your business, because $120 million is still a pretty nice payday.
Yeah, I mean, don't you think this was his best option as a player? I mean, you're in that San Francisco offense, Kyle Shanahan, an offensive-minded guy. Maybe the second choice was the Steelers, but you don't know what you have here. You don't know the quarterback situation. The offense is a run-heavy offense. I mean, the Browns, who knows what's going on with the Browns, and why would you want to go to the Patriots right now?
I mean, I could have seen it being appealing to go to the Patriots if for no other reason than they have Drake May, and eventually you figure maybe that guy is going to blossom into a really good player. If you got old Deshaun Watson with the Browns, that would be a totally different story here. But I think Amari Cooper, by the way, is a better receiver than Brandon Aiyuk still, even though Cooper's older. Yeah, the Niners were always the best team for him on paper. I thought that the Steelers never really made a ton of sense. It would have made them better for sure, but how much better, I think, was in a matter of degree. And again, I go back to my main takeaway here is Omar Khan got caught flat-footed when I think you might be right, Richie. He's had a lot of success making trades. He thought the other guy at the poker table would blink, and they never did. And now the Steelers have one of the worst, if not the worst, receiving core in the entire NFL. They have one proven good player and then a whole lot of nothing after him.
Okay, where do they go from here before we go to break? What do you think? Is there anyone out there that you think is better than Van Jefferson out there? I mean, because I guess you'd have to go a trade route if you want to get someone better, in my opinion. I don't know if anyone out there after cutdown day is worth going after.
I mean, they had their chance. They could have grabbed Terrace Marshall or tried to grab him. I guess that would have been a waiver claim, obviously, so priority-wise might have been different. But Terrace Marshall is on the Niners practice squad now. They could have tried to grab Noah Brown. They could have made a play. They didn't make a play for any of these receivers. The rest of it was pretty slim pickings, but to our knowledge, they never really seriously tried to get any of these guys or seemed to be seriously interested in any of these guys. And so, again, I just default back to I think they felt like they were getting Aiyuk, and now that he's not here, I don't think – you ask me to go name receivers that are still out there. Richie, anybody worth their salt that's still out there is not actually a good NFL player, so isn't worth their salt. There's nobody really – you're picking over the $2 DVD bin at the store where you might get I don't know, think of the worst movie you can think of and say, am I really going to watch Jack and Jill starring Adam Sandler or Plan 9 from Outer Space? I mean, there's just nothing out there.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so we got to go to break here. Back in a couple minutes with your phone calls. 412-575-2600 is the number. All right, welcome back to the Ireland Contracted Nightly Sports Call. I'm Rich Walsh. This is our GMC tweet of the night from Jerry Dulac, our Steelers insider. Steelers not surprised 49ers re-signed Brandon Aiyuk. It's what they expected all along. Now, that's from the Steelers. They're from Jerry Dulac. But, I think this story has taken so many turns, I don't even know what to believe anymore. But
I don't agree with that. I'll just flat out say it. I don't agree with that because I was hearing things, Pony's getting roasted, and I'm not trying to bring him up right now to further that roasting. He's getting crushed because he put himself out there via tweets about this, that it was on the goal line, that Aiyuk was going to be here. I was hearing similar things that matched up, that was coming from a source within the Steelers organization that I was hearing about it from. And so I don't believe what Jerry wrote right there, because Jerry presumably is getting it from somebody with the Steelers, and they are presumably trying to do damage control based on what I was hearing. I think they full well expected, Richie, to get Brandon Aiyuk. And the idea, here's why that tweet doesn't hold up to scrutiny, or the notion. Jerry's the messenger here. Jerry's not the one actually saying whether he believes or not. So I don't actually want to go after him for this. Here's why, though, that line of thinking does not hold up to any scrutiny. If you expected that the player was going to re-sign with his original team all along, why would you be okay with Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin, Dez Fitzpatrick, Scotty Mueller as your 4 receivers right now till Roman Wilson gets back? And even when Wilson gets back, that's not enough behind George Pickens. I'm sorry, that completely defies belief for me that that's actually how they felt about it, and that they were never really serious about the idea that Brandon Aiyuk might pick them and want to come and play in Pittsburgh via a trade. I'm sorry, I don't believe that at all.
Well, didn't Ray Fittipaldo say on your show that he thought Aiyuk was coming to Pittsburgh?
He said, yes, he said an hour before it actually got finalized that there was an extension, he felt like it was an 80-20 proposition that he would be here. Ray's plugged in. I believe what people were saying here. I think that the reason why this has gone so sideways, where so many people in town, and even nationally, there were people who thought that the Steelers were a serious bidder here. The reason why all of this has gone sideways is I think the Steelers sources that people have in town really believed it was going to happen, and then as rarely maybe takes place anymore, things legitimately changed, and Aiyuk decided to go back and just re-sign with San Francisco or give this extension a try with San Francisco. Like, I genuinely think that the Steelers thought Brandon Aiyuk would be on their Week 1 roster, flanking George Pickens, and that they would have their big 2 wide receivers, and they'd be fine. I refuse to believe that they would be this haphazard and this laissez-faire about filling out that receiver room if they never actually thought Brandon Aiyuk was going to be traded here.
Is there a chance that Aiyuk played everyone, and this was like a long game for him?
No, because he didn't get a dime more than what the Niners reportedly offered in the first place to him. If this was a big game
to that point on August 12th, right?
Yes, so nothing's changed. There's been basically 3 weeks between offers, and the offer stayed the same. And if he wanted every dollar, he would have gone to New England, or he would have gone to Cleveland. I think that the guy eventually said, you know what? Maybe this is the best place for me. I go back and take the deal, and I move forward. I don't think he played anybody, really. I think people that want to say that he played everybody and had all this leverage, a little bit much here for my tastes. So this to me is just Steelers thought they were going to get the deal done, and they got stuffed on the goal line. And now they are left holding the bag here. So how do you compensate for that? I don't think there's a way you do it.
Well, I think he played it as long as he could. And yesterday, when the Niners came out, the management came out and basically said, hey, you got to get back to practice or we're going to start finding you, and you could start losing money. You could start losing real money. He doesn't want to end up like Le'Veon Bell and holding out.
He got to skip all of camp and not have to work out with the team, and he's probably well-versed enough in the offense that he doesn't really need the practice. If he's in shape, he's going to be fine. So if you're of the belief that, like, if a player who hasn't been paid big time yet, who's produced like Aiyuk has, should watch out for number 1 at all times, then he did that. And this is the time where it would make sense. You're on the eve of the first week of practice. You come back, the Week 1 practice, Richie. You come back, you get ready, and you go. You sign your deal. But this is all about the Steelers for me. They have no receiving core outside of George Pickens now because of this.
All right, let's see if they do something this week. Let's go out to Jack in Mount Lebo. How you doing, Jack?
Holy cow. Hi, guys.
Hey.
You know what? Artie said we don't want him because we don't have a quarterback to get him the ball.
I don't necessarily agree with that, Chris. I think they do have a quarterback. I mean, if Russell Wilson is as good as he was last year, I think they will be an average to an above average offense, which will put them in a good spot. Better than last year.
Russell Wilson threw 26 touchdowns last year. I think we'd all sign in blood again for that. I also think that there are plenty of examples of quarterbacks with far less of a track record than Wilson. I get it. He's in his mid-30s now. But adding an elite wide receiver to the roster where the quarterback hasn't proven themselves and watching that elite wide receiver help the quarterback take off, probably the most famous recent version of this, A.J. Brown goes to Philly. Suddenly Jalen Hurts goes from okay-looking starter to second in the MVP voting. You absolutely don't let like a lack of a quote-unquote elite quarterback dissuade you from making a trade for a wide receiver if you think that wide receiver is a difference maker.
All right, Jeff out in South Park. How you doing, Jeff?
Hey guys, so this is the first time that Omar Khan's really been burnt in his tenure as GM. The last few years of Kevin Colbert's tenure, I don't think went so well. Becoming pretty clear to me, I know this is kind of an anthem, especially to Chris to mention, but it's pretty clear to me that when Ben was here, even when he was past his prime, he covered up a lot of big holes and mismanagement on this team. I really believe that. And now we're seeing what life is like with a very unsettled quarterback situation. And one other thing I would like to say to you guys is, how close are we to being Detroit 5 years ago, where all of their teams finished in last place? We have an unserious baseball team. We have a very old hockey team. And now we have a Steelers team where 50% of the roster, well, I should say the one side of the ball, I don't know is very good.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know which team.
When you
either
put
the
it that
Pirates
way,
or the
Jeff,
Steelers.
I think it's time to start drinking.
It's gloom and doom, right? I think the Steelers' window is still open. You got to retool that offense a little bit. Hopefully, Arthur Smith's offense works.
Wait, window to do? Hold on, Richie. Window to do what? Like win a playoff game?
Window to make a run in the AFC. They absolutely need a quarterback, but yeah, I don't know if this quarterback's on this team, but they need a few weapons, and I think they have pieces in place that they're not far off. That's what I'm saying. They're not far off. And I thought the Pirates weren't far off either. The Penguins are the furthest away.
No, I think the Pirates are still very far away. I don't think that's fair to the Penguins. The Penguins still have Crosby. The Penguins went down to the last couple games of the regular season bidding for a playoff spot. I understand more teams make it in the NHL.
But to be average in the playoffs? I mean, like...
Why anybody thinks the Pirates are very close is beyond me. This team's high watermark after the first 10 days of the season was 3 games over 500. That is not a good baseball team. The Diamondbacks and Padres especially have completely separated themselves. I think if you're a Pirates fan and you looked at this season and you thought they are really close, you probably were deluded into thinking that by the starting pitching. But look at you want to talk about Jeff in South Park saying Ben papered over, covered up warts. Man, Paul Skeens and Mitch Keller for a lot of the season and for Jared Jones a little bit, those guys covered up a lot of warts. The Pirates have a lot of work to do.
All right, Gary out in Bethel Park. How you doing, Gary?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for calling.
I was just talking about bringing Aiyuk as the best thing they ever did, not getting Aiyuk. He would be making like $400,000 a catch if he signed for $28 million with us. And that's the stats based on their offense last year.
Hey, Gary,
TJ Watt makes like $1.4 million a sack. Are you okay with that? And he's also never won a playoff game.
I mean, look, I view this always, it's not my money. You want to put the best team out there, and Brandon Aiyuk would make this team better. There's no question about it. But I wouldn't want to have to give up major assets to get him and then pay him. I don't like the fact that they would have to have given up a second-round pick and maybe more. And then on top, pay him $30 million when you got to find a quarterback next year, and you got to pay George Pickens.
Again, I'm just going to keep going back to this because I feel like people are trying to gloss over it, or people are trying to say, oh, it's actually good that this didn't happen. I never wanted it to happen. It's like getting rejected. You ask the prom, the cheerleading captain to the prom, and she says no, and you say, oh, well, it's actually good. I didn't want her to say yes anyway. I would have had to get a tux and all that. I didn't want them to get Brandon Aiyuk from the start. That doesn't mean that I think that they should be absolved of how this has all gone down. They haven't done any. It is a pass-catching and pass-defending league. They have one guy that can catch passes right now reliably.
Maybe 2 if you count Pat Freiermuth. But you need a second receiver. I'm not going to discount that. We got to take a break. Back to wrap things up coming up next.